So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time. Now, needless to say this, just watching this lecture would be job half done because just after watching it, you need to revise it as well. Why? Well, revision helps you consolidate these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. So, do not forget to revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us on our Telegram channel. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section just below this video. Alright then, enough of the introduction. Let's straight away jump into the lecture. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. So let's begin. So Daily Current Affairs, 29th of November, Saturday, and here is the topics list. Number one topic is C grade rating for India's national statistics. What are national statistics? Like calculation of GDP, CPI, IIP, all these things. Now, this grading is given by IMF, and there are 4 grades A, B, C, D. So, why has IMF given C grading? What is IMF's grading program? We'll talk about all these things. Important information, by the way. So, this is topic number 1. Then, elections of United Nations Secretary General. Well, they are about to begin. So, we'll talk about the electoral process of this important post in the world governing body, in the world body called United Nations. Okay. Then, third topic is National Action Plan 2.0 for Antimicrobial Resistance. Okay, antimicrobial resistance is a big threat to the entire world. What is India's action plan? What was India's action plan? That was 1.0. And what is this new plan? We'll talk about all these things. And in the end, we'll talk about the controversy related to Indian Statistical Institute via a bill that is being tabled in the parliament. Okay, so we'll talk about this controversy. Basically, we'll focus on what Indian Statistical Institute is all about. So these are the 4 news items. Okay. Topic number 1 is related to economics portion of your UPSC syllabus. Topic number 2 related to international relations portion. Topic number 3 is related to health, science and technology portion of your UPSC syllabus. And topic number 4, well, let's call it polity portion of your UPSC syllabus. Okay. But you will get to learn some general facts also when it comes to the 4th topic. All right then. So these are the 4 topics that we shall zero in our attention on. So let's start discussing them one by one. Starting with topic number 1, and that is C grade for Indian national accounts, Indian national statistics. Okay. Now look, India calculates its economic performance. Okay. India gathers data for its economic performance. These are known as national account statistics. For example, GDP, CPI, Consumer Price Index, Wholesale Price Index, Index of Industrial Production. So there are so many statistics that India basically calculates. Now, IMF grades all the countries. Okay, IMF gives a grading to all the countries based on their, data gathering methodologies, based on how their national account statistics are collected. Okay, now recently IMF gave India's GDP collection C grade, and all the other data collection like CPI, IIP, all the other data collection B grade. In its report, IMF mentioned that India has really improved its data collection methodology, data calculation methodology. We can rely on India's figures. IMF basically praised India, but it said there are certain weaknesses in GDP calculation. That is why we have given only GDP calculation C grade and all the other calculations B grade. Okay. So we will talk about this entire program of IMF under which it gives gradings to countries. And then we'll explore the reasons why India's GDP estimation is still C grade. And can it improve in future? We'll talk about all these things. Okay, so let's begin. So C grade for India's national statistics. So what was in the news? So IMF assigned C grade to India's national account statistics, basically GDP data only, in its 2025 Article 4 consultation report. So IMF gives grading to different countries every year through its Article 4 consultation report. That is known as, that is the name of the report. Okay. However, overall data adequacy rating for India remains B. So overall, India gets a B grade, but particularly for GDP, India gets a C grade. Okay. IMF says that India gets a good B grade, though the best grade is A, but B is still better. And why India got B grade is because India has shown better performance in calculating prices, inflation, government finances, fiscal deficits and all, and external sector statistics like balance of payment and all. Okay, so India has improved in these areas. Just the GDP part is a problem. Okay, and it can improve. IMF has mentioned and given certain recommendations also. Okay, now first let's talk about this rating system of IMF, because questions, MCQs can be asked from here also. So what is this rating system? So IMF's rating system. So IMF uses a 4-tier rating system, A to D, for member countries' statistical data under Article 4 consultations. So IMF conducts these Article 4 consultations with member countries, and in that it publishes a report and then gives a grade. The grade is from A to D. And like it is in our schools also, A rating means data is adequate, very good methodology. B reflects, indicates some shortcomings, but broadly it's fine. Okay. C signifies shortcomings that somewhat hamper surveillance, data surveillance, GDP surveillance, inflation surveillance. Okay. So serious shortcomings. And D reflects that the data is absolutely bogus. Okay. Serious deficiency significantly impeding analysis. So these are the grades from A to D, remember. Okay. Now, what are the reasons for India's C grade? And remember, C grade only particularly for GDP. So reasons for India's C rating. First of all, to calculate real GDP, India is using an outdated base year. We are still using 2011-12. Though the government has announced that we are going to shift to 2022-23 very soon. But still, it's very old. We are calculating 2025's GDP using the base year of 2011-12. That's more than 14-15 years old. So this is one problem that basically hides certain data points. And then, well, there are some methodological gaps. The methodology to calculate GDP, IMF thinks, is not at par. IMF advises, and you should know this if you have covered economics from your lectures, or if you have covered economics with us in our Gurukul course, you should know this, that to calculate GDP, there are 3 methods. Okay. Gross value added method or value added method, expenditure method, and income method, right? IMF advises that you use expenditure method, sorry, not income, expenditure method to calculate GDP, but India uses activity method. Okay. Nonetheless, IMF says that there are certain methodological gaps, but the biggest problem is base year. You don't update your base year regularly for real GDP. Now, most of you know about base year, I'm guessing. Okay. If you don't, then just listen to this news. Be patient. When we'll cover economics lectures, you'll understand. Okay. But IMF says there is good news as well. Despite this, India's overall data rating is B, bolstered by grades and prices. India's inflation calculation is good. Government finance calculation is good. Fiscal policy and all. External sector, monetary statistics, intersectoral consistency is there. So these are some of the good points in India's data collection. Okay. So mostly it's good. Only the GDP part is faulty. Okay. Now, how has been India's performance? Well, like we discussed, the shortcomings. Persistent criticisms include lack of regular rebasing, updating base year, use of WPI instead of PPI. In India, we calculate inflation in 2 formats: consumer price index for retail inflation, wholesale price index for wholesale inflation. We are trying to replace WPI with producer price index, inflation at the producer level, not consumer level. But we haven't achieved it so far. And IMF criticizes that. IMF says this WPI is bad. Okay. For deflation, discrepancies in GDP estimates by activity versus expenditure. Remember, I told you that expenditure method is superior in the eyes of IMF. IMF recommends, but IMF says, well, you have done good also. Sorry. IMF says that you can improve by timely population census. Our population census is also delayed. Consolidated fiscal accounts, adherence to international best practices. Now, this consultation report came out from IMF. What has been India's response? What did India say? Well, Indian authorities say that, well, we are updating our GDP base year from next quarter, okay? And our CPI series is also upgrading. So this rating will show improvement. So all Indians, don't worry, our rating will improve from C to B as soon as we update base year. Okay, that's been India's response. All right, understood? Okay then, let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, very important for you to know if you want to understand UN, and that is UN Secretary General. Now, the current UN Secretary General is Antonio Guterres. Okay, his name is Antonio Guterres. He's from Portugal. Now, his term is about to end. Generally, Secretary General gets a 5-year term. His term is about to end, and the term for next Secretary General will begin later. But the election part has begun. Okay, so elections for the next Secretary General have already begun. The process has begun. Okay, now this is an important time for us to know what is the entire election process for appointment of Secretary General, because MCQs can be asked from this trivia as well. How are the elections conducted for Secretary General, which is the top post in this world body called United Nations? So we will get into the details of the entire process, election process of UN Secretary General. And then we will talk about the role of UN Secretary General. I told you it is the top post for UN, so it must have significant functions. So we will talk about role of Secretary General. Why is this post important? Okay, so let's begin. So UN Secretary General. So what was in the news? A new UN Secretary General, the Chief Administrative Officer of the world body, will be elected next year for a 5-year term. Okay. Now, what is the first step in this election process? The first step is that all 15 members of United Nations Security Council, okay, as you all know, United Nations Security Council has 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members, right? So all 15 members will give a letter, and the President of United Nations General Assembly, 193 member General Assembly, will send a joint letter to ask for nominations. This is the first step. So the first step, the election process begins when UNSC and President of UNGA send a joint letter to ask for nominations. Okay. Now, when they ask for nominations, each member country can recommend their nominee. Okay, they can recommend a person from their own country. Each member country has the right to give nominations. India can give, Pakistan can give, South Africa can give, Brazil can give, Russia can give. Okay, so they are inviting nominations. Now, some details about election process, very important. The UN Secretary General is appointed by the General Assembly. So it's appointed by the General Assembly upon recommendation of Security Council. So Security Council recommends that this should be Secretary General, and then final authority is General Assembly. And General Assembly is like rubber stamp only. Like in India, the real power is with Prime Minister, but the signing authority is President. You understand? If Prime Minister says that I want to make this appointment, Prime Minister will make the decision, but the signing authority is President. You all know about this, right? Similarly, the selection or the election is done by Security Council. And then Security Council makes a recommendation to General Assembly. The General Assembly almost every time accepts that recommendation. Okay. Now, this entire process of elections is mentioned in Article 97 of UN Charter. Remember this. Okay. Now, what is the entire process? Well, like I said, the process begins with a joint letter. Then, after receiving all the nominations, then United Nations Security Council conducts straw polls. The official name is straw polls, but actually its meaning is secret ballot. So all the 15 members of United Nations Security Council will vote. Okay, they will vote, and it is secret ballot. That means they don't have to reveal their vote. Now, they have 3 options when they are voting for a candidate. Okay, they can say encourage. Generally, when we vote, it is either yes or no. Okay, they can. So with every candidate, they are given 3 options: encourage, discourage, or no opinion. So most countries, okay, they give no opinion on most candidates, and the candidate they like, they say encourage. Okay, so secret ballot is done using 3 options. Every country has 3 options for each candidate: encourage, discourage, no opinion. 2 narrow candidates. Now remember, well, a candidate who wants to be selected, well, he needs at least 9 encourage votes. More than 9 encourage votes, okay? 9 plus encourage votes, plus there should be no discourage vote from either of the permanent members. Who are the permanent members? US, UK, France, Russia, China. So in a sense, these 5 permanent members have veto. So from 15, you need minimum 9 encourage votes. But there should be no one discourage, no one veto from any of the P5 members, permanent members. Okay. By the way, when the candidate makes their nomination, they give their CV, vision statement, experience, everything. Okay, resume, everything. Okay. Now, generally, the candidates are chosen on a rotation basis. So, rotation in a sense, the entire world is divided into regions, and generally, every region is selected for this time Secretary General. So you will accept nominations from that region only. Like Africa is a region, Asia is a region, like that. Generally it happens, but there is no compulsion. Okay. Now the winner is declared by United Nations Security Council, and then United Nations Security Council gives a letter recommending that particular candidate to United Nations General Assembly. The council then adopts a resolution recommending one or more, but mostly one candidate for acclamation, and generally United Nations General Assembly, well, signs on it. So the final approval authority is General Assembly only, but mostly the real power lies with Security Council. So once the candidate is recommended to General Assembly just signs on it. That is why that process is also known as rubber stamp. Okay, General Assembly has no actual power, de facto power. Okay, now let's talk about the role of Secretary General. Why is this post, this appointment so important? What does a Secretary General do? So UN Secretary General's post is the top post in United Nations, and he has many roles. He has administrative roles, okay, diplomatic roles. If there is a fight between 2, 3, 4 countries or blocks, he does mediation and all. Peace role also, oversees peacekeeping missions, under secretaries for operations and all. And as per Article 99 of UN Charter, every time there is a conflict, Secretary General has to report and inform the Security Council about that conflict. This is his very important role. Plus, there are many functions he performs. They can be grouped into these 4 categories. And all is given in your notes, so go through your notes as well. Okay? All right. Now, let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is National Action Plan 2.0 for Antimicrobial Resistance. Now, listen to me very carefully. What is antimicrobial resistance? Okay. Now, antimicrobials, first of all, what are antimicrobials? For that, you need to know what are microbials. So, microbials are those disease-causing microorganisms like bacteria, virus, fungi, parasite, right? Now, if you have a bacterial infection, viral infection, fungal infection, or parasitic infection, you are given treatment. If you have a bacterial infection, then the treatment is antibiotics. If you have a viral infection, then you are given antivirals. If you have a fungal infection, you are given antifungals. And if you have a parasitic infection, then antiparasitics. Okay. So these medicines that are given for every infection, these are called antimicrobials. Now the thing is, so far antibiotics have worked on bacteria, but now we are finding these new strains of bacteria who are resistant to these antibiotics. Antibiotics don't work on them. When they don't work on them, you give a stronger antibiotic. Then they become resistant to stronger antibiotic also. Then you give a stronger, then you give a stronger. Now, when the bacteria become resistant to last line of antibiotics, the strongest, well, that is a emergency situation because you cannot cure this very minor infection. Yes, this is known as antimicrobial resistance, and this is spreading out in the world. If this spreads out further, well, we will enter into the dark ages of medicine when antibiotics didn't work or when antibiotics were not there. Those dark ages of medicine. Imagine your life without antibiotics. People would die of minor infections also. Okay? A normal throat infection can kill you because those antibiotics are not working. Right? Now, the reason why antibiotic resistance is happening is because there are various reasons. Okay? But reason number 1 is we are over-consuming antibiotics. Okay, over-consuming. Even if we do not, when we have throat pain, maybe that throat pain is because of a virus, but we still take antibiotics. We are over-consuming antibiotics. Antibiotics are available from medicine stores, medical stores without doctor's prescription in India, right? So this overconsumption of antibiotics by us and these livestock rearing people, these people, animal herders, they also feed their cattle, poultry with antibiotics, a lot of antibiotics. So bacteria in those cattle, in that cattle or in that poultry, they also become resistant and then they transfer to humans. Okay, so these bacterial strains which are resistant to antibiotics, they are spreading out. So these are the main reasons. Okay, now if this spreads out, then it will be emergency situation for the world and India also. That is why in 2017, India launched National Action Plan for 5 years. Those 5 years ended. Now India is launching National Action Plan to combat antimicrobial resistance 2.0. Okay, basically improving upon previous action plans shortcomings. So this is the news that we are going to talk about. All right, okay then. So NAP 2.0 for antimicrobial resistance. So India launched NAP 2.0 during World Antimicrobial Awareness Week to combat AMR, building on the steps since NAP 2017, okay, which was 1.0. Progress includes strengthened AMR surveillance, disease surveillance, regulated antibiotics use, not overconsumption, bans on certain antimicrobials in poultry. Remember, I told you, improved diagnostics, surveillance, enhanced infection control measures such as Kayakalp, Mission Kayakalp. Okay, now first let's talk about NAP 1.0. Okay, so India's National Action Plan on AMR 2017 to 21 aligned with WHO's Global Action Plan on AMR, which was adopted in 2015. Like I told you, it has become a global problem. Okay. Now, this plan adopted One Health approach. What is One Health approach? That human health, environmental health, animal health, they all move together. If you really want to promote human health, you cannot ignore environmental health and animal health. If you really want to promote environmental health, you cannot ignore human and animal health. They're all interconnected. So if you really want to target one of them, you have to target the remaining two. Lately, this One Health approach was expanded to include human, animals, agriculture, fisheries, environmental sectors. Okay, but basically, three sectors are covered: human, environment, animal. Okay, it also follows this similar One Health approach. Remember this One Health approach, it was given by WHO. Now, what were the benefits or what were the strategic priorities of this NAP 1.0? Strategic priorities. Improves awareness among people that don't overconsume antibiotics, okay? Strengthen surveillance, disease surveillance, infection prevention and control, optimize antimicrobial use, ban buying of antibiotics without prescription. Plus, then there was research and development, and many other things. Okay, these were there in NAP 1.0. But NAP 1.0, despite its achievements and progress, well, had certain shortcomings. First of all, different health departments had to coordinate together for real success. Well, there were coordination gaps, limited interministerial ownership or coordination, diagnostic shortages, which impacted disease surveillance, self-medication by people. This is the big problem. People just have throat pain and they assume that they have bacterial throat infection. They go to the nearby medical store, and that owner of the medical store is also like, he's also not careful. Without doctor's prescription, which is banned in India, without doctor's prescription, he gives you azithromycin, amoxiclav, all these antibiotics, and you diagnose your disease on your own. This is a problem. Okay, so these were the shortcomings and no dedicated funding. Now about NAP 2.0. So it's a 5-year strategy for 25 to 29, launched on November 18, 2025. And the main aim is to address the gaps in 1.0. Okay. So first of all, it will enhance accountability, mandating over 20 ministries to create sector-specific action plans with timelines and budgets. And all of this will be monitored by NITI Aayog. So accountability with every government department. Then expansion of One Health approach. Expands One Health to surveillance to wastewater from hospitals, farms, and pharma industries. Okay, so in One Health approach, you have now taken wastewater management also. Then other, prioritize private sector management, rapid diagnostics, state level plans like following good state level plans like Kerala model, all these things. Plus NAP 2.0 rests on 6 pillars. Those 6 pillars are mentioned in your notes. Do go through that as well. All right. And now let's move on to last news item of the day, and that is Indian Statistical Institute Bill 2025. Now, this has been a pattern only now these days. Well, Government of India or the Parliament comes out with a bill to further centralize certain universities, and then there are protests. Now, there is one such institute called Indian Statistical Institute. Okay. Now, government basically approved a bill which would further centralize, give central government more powers over the management and removal or appointment of top posts in that institute. So centralizing a bill has been tabled by, well, government, cabinet, union cabinet, to further centralize Indian Statistical Institute. And because of that, there are protests. People have filed petitions. Okay. Now, we won't get into the controversy of this matter, whether centralizing is good or not. No question would be asked. Okay. No question would be asked on this matter also. What centralizing features are added in Indian Statistical Institute bill? No. The whole purpose of including this news item in today's lecture was to give you information, pre-relevant, prelims relevant information for Indian Statistical Institute. So we will not get into the controversy. We will not get into anything. Though details are mentioned in your notes. What is the controversy? What is government's arguments? What is protesters' arguments? All of this is given in your notes. But we won't spend time on that. We will just gather basic information, basic trivia about Indian Statistical Institute. That's it. Okay. So let's quickly finish this topic. So Indian Statistical Institute. So what was in the news? Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation Draft Bill 2025 converts ISI, Indian Statistical Institute, from a society. Okay. It was registered under Societies Act to a statutory body. Okay. Like IITs, IIMs, with the president as visitor, top post. Okay. ISI is an institution of national importance. So in 1959, government came out with a bill. Okay, in that bill, they declared that ISI is the Institute of National Importance. Okay, so government will take extra care of that. ISI is Institute of National Importance, much like IITs. Now, certain basic trivia about ISI. So it was founded in 1931 by Chief Statistician of India, P.C. Mahalanobis, the legendary figure who also helped in second 5-year plan. So P.C. Mahalanobis of India, apex statistician of India, well, he founded Indian Statistical Institute in Kolkata, and it is currently headquartered in Kolkata also. It was declared Institute of National Importance by Indian Statistical Institute Act 1959, headquartered in Kolkata with centers in Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai and Tezpur. When it was declared Institute of National Importance, then it was given power, because as soon as you declare a particular institute as Institute of National Importance, well, you get the autonomy to award degrees. You don't need any permission. So degrees to students. Plus you are also eligible for central funding. So that was the benefit by this tag. And it offers courses in statistics, mathematics, research programs. That's about it. The controversy part is given in your notes, but my advice would be to just read it once. No need to revise it. No question would be asked. Okay. And that would be all. With that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. So be consistent and regular, and do not forget to revise each and every lecture from the notes. On the hope that you are going to do that, I shall take your leave with the promise of seeing you next time with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.